All right. Well, welcome everybody. I'm going to get started because I know that everyone's really busy. So, and I just want to be respectful of people's time. And as people come in, I'll just let them in, which is kind of how it works. So, um, thank you so much for being here. I'm really happy to see you all here today, and I'm really happy that you have given yourself the time to be here. I think that's the most important thing to acknowledge is that you've given yourself permission to be here and to learn and to connect and to take time away from your busy schedules to be here. So I really acknowledge you for that. And I just wanted to go through what we're going to touch on today in today's class. I'm going to share what overwhelm is and how it impacts you. I'm going to discuss how fight, flight, or freeze shows up in your life, so that you can start recognizing those signs, right, of what that means and what it looks like in your life or what it potentially looks like in your life. And you can start being proactive about getting yourself out of those states. And I know that was something that I had a couple of questions on. How can we start being more proactive about getting ourselves out of overwhelm? And I think that's such an important question. And then I want to share 3 simple practices to reduce overwhelm that you can get started on doing right now. And as a reminder, these are starting points, these are guidelines, these are ideas so that you can create what actually works for you, because we're all different and what works for one person may not work for somebody else. So these are just ideas and starting points and ways to get your minds thinking about how you can start creating some daily practices in your life to create more calm and more confidence and just a little bit more of a steady state in your life. So I hope that all sounds really good to you. Okay, so overwhelm. Who can relate to feeling like this photo? Type a yes in the chat if you're like, yeah, I can totally relate to feeling this way. Maybe it's not over laundry, but maybe it's just that feeling. Yeah, quite often. Yeah. Yeah, totally. Good. So we're not alone. I think that's another really important point, is that we're not all alone. Sometimes we feel like we are, but everyone's going through some version of this feeling. And I know when I get this feeling of overwhelm, I feel like almost like I can't breathe. I feel like a little bit nauseous. I just feel this panicky feeling. I know some women explain to me that they feel like they're just treading water and kind of just like doggy paddling and they can barely keep their head above the water, that kind of feeling. And I know that a lot of women feel like they just have so much on their plate and they just don't even know like where to even get started on sorting out all that stuff on their plate. So I totally get that panicky feeling, that kind of feeling in our bodies and our minds, that overwhelm, that anxiety, that stress. And, this is not a good place to be, right? It's not a good place to be. Living in overwhelm, it impacts your health, your overall wellness, your relationships, including the one with your spouse. It impacts your performance at work, your capacity to support your kids or other people in your life. It takes away joy and satisfaction and happiness and confidence. And it also takes away that feeling of control in your life. And it's really prevalent in today's society, especially with women. And so we need to learn how to reduce this overwhelm so that we can show up as our best selves to the world. Because I know that you want to create an impact in the world, right? You want to make a change. You want to be supportive. You want to be a good person at work. You want to be a good mom. You want to be a good spouse. You want to be a good role model. You want to give back. And we can't do that when we feel in this state of overwhelm. And so I know you're here today because you want to take back some of that control. You want to learn how to feel more calm and confident. And you want to show up in the world as your best self. And I really acknowledge you for that. And like I said, to give yourself the time to do that today is really important. So let's start right now. Let's start with the most simplest, easiest way to reduce that feeling of overwhelm. And that's intentionally focusing on your breathing. Now, I'm going to be diving a little bit deeper into this in the class as to the benefits of breathing and a few other breathing techniques. But for now, I just really invite you to join me. I invite you just to place your hands on your heart or on your belly or one on both. And if you feel comfortable, close your eyes. Put both feet on the ground and begin to focus on your breath. Just no judgment. There's no need to change your breathing. Just focus on it. Feel the air in your nostrils as you inhale and exhale. Feel your chest and belly rise and fall as you breathe. And feel your heart in your chest as it beats. And let's just take one deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. Nice, long, deep breaths. Let's do another one. In and out. And one more breath in through your nose. And exhale out. And just resume your regular breathing. And I invite you to leave your to-do list and all your stresses and all your overwhelm outside of this virtual room today, just for the next little while. And just commit to staying in the present moment, taking a pause for yourself, and learning something. You may now open your eyes. Whew, that felt good. So that's a really easy way to get yourself out of that acute feeling of overwhelm. And this is something that I use all the time throughout the day. Just those 3 long, deep breaths in and out can be really powerful. And I do this before I do a presentation. You can do it before you go into a meeting. I do it in the car. I'm doing it, I do it in the lineup when I'm feeling a little bit impatient or stressed. And it really is a powerful way to just get yourself back into a steadier, calmer state. So before we move on, let me introduce myself to those of you who don't know me. My name is Vera Ilnitsky. I'm a life coach. I'm a podcast host. I'm a speaker. And I'm an advocate for healthy and active living. Now, 12 years ago, I was fired from my job. I was also going through a divorce. I was feeling like a total failure. I had no purpose. I didn't know what my purpose was. I had no fulfillment in my life, and I really didn't even know where to start. I was feeling really stuck. And as challenging as that time was in my life, I'm also really grateful that it happened, because it was the start of me developing tools and resources and practices that helped me get to the next, helped me move through that, and helped me find purpose and helped me take steps forward. And this is what I love sharing with women today in what I do, is these tools and resources and practices. And one of the first steps in getting unstuck is to find purpose and to not feel like a failure, is to really get out of this feeling of overwhelm, this feeling of stress and anxiety, and this kind of total feeling of stuckness. Now, overwhelm is most commonly associated with negative emotions and feelings that are just too much for us to handle, right? So there's just too much work. There's too much stress. There's too much on our to-do list. There's too much on our plate. And we become just emotionally unable to manage those feelings. Now, we can be also overwhelmed by something positive, like the birth of a child can be overwhelming, or the generosity of someone. But in general, we use it to relate to really negative things that happen to us, that can lead to feelings of anxiety or stress or even burnout. And when you feel this way, like this woman does in this photo, when you feel like you're barely keeping things together, it puts your nervous system and your body into fight, flight, or freeze mode. And I'm sure you've heard of these modes. And I'm sure you know that from an evolutionary perspective, we were meant to be in these states of fight, flight, or freeze for really short periods of time, for when we're in danger or a crisis situation. And even today, right? If our child runs across the street in front of a car, or something dangerous happens to us, right? That's what our bodies are meant to do, to get us into this survival mode. But what's happening in today's world is that we're staying in these high states of survival, this fight, flight, or freeze mode for long periods of time, way longer than our bodies are meant to be. And this negatively impacts all aspects of our health and wellness, our physical health, our mental wellness, our emotional and spiritual wellness as well. So let's explore each of these states a little bit more, because I want you to be aware of what this could mean in your day-to-day life right now in modern society. What does fight, flight, or freeze feel like? What does it mean? So the state of fight, it doesn't necessarily mean you're physically fighting someone, or at least I hope it means you're not physically fighting someone. And maybe for some people it is, but really it means that you're reacting in ways that don't really serve you. So maybe you're being really snappy at your husband, or you're being really irritable with your kids, or really impatient with your colleagues, or maybe even saying something unprofessional at work. So you're taking out all your stress and frustration onto those around you. So that's how fight can show up in our modern world. It also means that you are literally fighting the urge to slow down. You're fighting your body and your mind that's telling you, you need to slow down, you need to rest, you need to get calmed down, and we're fighting it. We're like, no, I'm just going to keep going. I need to keep doing this. I have so much to do, I can't slow down. So we're literally fighting what we need. Are any of you experiencing this, or have you experienced this fight situation? Yeah, Ashley's nodding. Anyone else? Victoria's it. Yep, I have to. Yeah. Jade, yes, so hard not to be bitchy. Yeah, exactly, right? And we don't want to be bitchy, but it's just kind of how it's coming out in our modern world, where we're in this fight, in this survival mode. It just comes out that way, and it's not how we want to be. I know that's not how you want to be. Meryl, everything gets a reaction. Yeah, we're reacting. That's right. We're reacting instead of really responding or being intentional about how we want to be. So this is kind of the whole point, right? Physical pain that's consistent quickens a timeline. It's a pain body reaction. Yeah, there definitely is a physical component to this, right? Like being in survival mode can definitely impact our physical health. And we can feel that pain, right? We get all tense. Yeah, thanks for that, Victoria. Now, what about being in flight? What does that look like? Well, really, it means like you want to just run away and hide from it all. Or in other words, you just want to ignore it, like bury my head in the sand. I'm not going to deal with it. You ignore your feelings, you ignore your emotions, you just push them away. You ignore what your body is telling you. You might even ignore the offers of help. If someone's offering to help you, you're like, nope, nothing's wrong. I'm good. I'm just running away. You ignore maybe even finding solutions for yourself, and your mind just kind of runs away. And honestly, like I have felt this way, like if you could, you would run away. I don't know about you, but how many of you maybe raise your hand or type yes in the chat box if you're like, I want to get in the car and start driving and never come back. Or I want to buy a one-way ticket to Mexico and just get myself out of here. Yeah, burn it all down. Like just go away. That's flight, right? And I left Ontario in February. Yeah, so some of us actually do physically fly away, right? That's awesome. And sometimes we actually are running away. Like sometimes we're running towards something, but a lot of times we want to feel like one is flee and just get away from it all. Yeah, start again. But sometimes we can't run away, right? We do have responsibilities. We do have jobs. We have children. We can't run away. So really, we just let our mind run away, and we just kind of start living a little bit on autopilot. We kind of coast a little bit. We just kind of get into this like cycle, this Groundhog Day. We're just going to just keep doing the same thing over and over again because it's easier than trying to get out of it. I'm just going to kind of ignore all my stuff. So that's flight. What about freeze? You've probably seen this in nature, like when you come across a squirrel or a deer when you're on a hike and they kind of like stop and just stare at you and you have no idea what they're going to do next. And I think, Crystal, you had messaged me, and this you kind of said, it feels like I'm just stuck in like I just get stopped in my tracks. Like I don't even know where to go. I just stand there. So kind of like this picture, like I'm just like encased in concrete. You feel really stuck, right? It feels almost like your brain is frozen. You don't even know where to turn to next. You can't make a decision, right? You can't make a move. You don't know what the first step is. You can't even think about it. So you just stay where you are. Now, sometimes this is good. If you're going through something traumatic or something really challenging, making a decision in the height of trauma or in the height of going through some challenging thing in your life, you don't want to be making a decision then. So sometimes freezing is actually very protective, but a lot of times it's really keeping us stuck. And I've been there, right? I've stayed in a job that I hated, right? I've stayed in a relationship that was toxic. And I'm sure some of you can relate to that, right? We just kind of get into this, I'm just going to stay here because I don't know how to move on to next. So when we are in these states of fight, flight, or freeze, it means that we can't be in the right state of mind to make a decision that's best for us. So a lot of times we'll make decisions in these heightened states. And later on, we're like, why did I even decide that? Why did I make that decision? It wasn't serving my best self. It wasn't supporting me. So when we're in these heightened states of fight, flight, or freeze, we can't make decisions that are best for us, that are aligned with our values or with our best self or who we want to be or how we want to show up in the world. And being in these states also increases your adrenaline, your cortisol, right? None of those things are great to have too much of. And it can lead to a lot of different issues. And I recently read an article in Positive Psychology. They were talking about a recent study about what chronic long-term stress does to us. And this is being in fight, flight, or freeze for a long period of time is chronic stress, is being in chronic stress. And this is what it said that it can do to us. It can cause high blood pressure, formation of artery clogging deposits. That just sounds gross. Anxiety, depression, addiction, obesity, and poor sleep. So none of these things are great. These are all the really negative side effects of staying in overwhelm. Now, another factor, I don't know, I can't see all your faces, ladies, but another factor that's contributing to a lot of these symptoms of overwhelm and contributing to our overwhelm is being in perimenopause. I've been doing a lot of research on this period of my life because that's where I am right now. And by the way, perimenopause can start in your 30s and last for 10 to 15 years. So a lot of us are in this stage of life. And we're dealing with these hormonal imbalances, and that can really be increasing our stress and our overwhelm as well. And I've been listening to a lot of doctors and naturopaths and other healthcare practitioners and researchers, and they all say that the number one thing to do when you're feeling like when you were in perimenopause and feeling these stressors in your life is to make a lifestyle change. And the number one thing about that is to reduce our stress. So it's not about taking the pills or it's not about, doing other things, although that's a component of it. But really the number one thing is to reduce our overwhelm, to reduce our stress. So it's like extra important for women to be really mindful about this. Now, I know that as women, we think we need to do it all, right? We think that we're supposed to figure out how to do it all. But this is a lie. We've been conditioned to think this. We've been conditioned to think that we need to figure it all out. We need to do it all. But the truth is, what you need to figure out is how to reduce your overwhelm. And you need to give yourself permission to do that. And so the first step is coming to something like this and giving yourself time to figure out and even admit to yourself that, yeah, I am in overwhelm. I need some guidance around this or some support or some different ideas. I need to know that I'm not alone in this. So we really need to figure out how to get ourselves out of this feeling of fight, flight, or freeze, out of this overwhelm, out of this stress. And you're not supposed to feel like a bad person for wanting to do that. You're not supposed to feel guilty for putting yourself first and for taking care of yourself. Because remember, if you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of those around you. You can't create that positive impact that I know you want to in the world. And this is what I'm so passionate about, is we need to get ourselves into a calm, steady, confident state so that we can really shine our light and really listen, ladies, we're going to change the world, right? Like women are going to change the world. And we can't do that from a place of feeling de-energized or feeling depleted or feeling in this constant fight, flight, or freeze mode. So it's really important that we figure out what works for you. So let's talk about 3 different ways to reduce overwhelm. So 3 simple things that don't take a lot of time. What they do require, though, is a decision to do them, right? These are daily practices. These are daily things that we need to be doing. So it's a commitment to ourselves, a commitment to our health, a commitment to our wellness, a commitment to the health and wellness of those in our lives. It requires some curiosity, right? We're going to experiment a little bit, like what's going to work for us, what's not going to work for us. So being really open to that. It also requires grace and self-compassion, which I know can be really challenging to give ourselves that. But it does take self-love and self-compassion to figure things out for ourselves. And these are all a practice, right? So we can do some things like the breathing that's kind of gets us out of that acute situation, but to be really proactive and to really get ahead of the overwhelm, we need to create some space in our lives. And I'm suggesting 5 minutes a day to create a practice for ourselves that's really going to keep us in this calm, steady state. And I want you to know that you deserve that. And I hope you believe that too. So we did a really quick version of the breathing at the beginning, right? The 3 deep breaths in and just out. And you can do that anywhere. I mean, if you're driving, please don't close your eyes. But otherwise, you can close your eyes. I've done it at my desk at work, right? In a cubicle. People don't even need to know that you're doing it. I've done it in bathroom stalls before interviews or presentations. So figure out a way how you can do that. But you can just breathe anytime. Nobody even needs to know that you're doing something. And it seems really simple, and it is. And I want you to get into the mindset of like, these things can be simple for me. I don't need to overhaul my whole entire life to create these self-care practices and these ways to reduce overwhelm. It can be really simple. And breathing is really powerful because it really calms our nervous system. And I don't know if you felt that doing the breathing exercise at the beginning, but it really just calmed everyone down. I could feel it even through the internet. I could feel that. It brings you into the present moment, which is what you want. Overwhelm means that we're thinking about the future. We're worried about the future. We're stressed about what's going to happen. And breathing brings us back into the present moment. And we can look around and say, I'm fine right now in this moment. I can take back some of my control. It also opens up our lungs, right? Because when we get stressed, we kind of hunch our shoulders, we constrict our lungs, we tense up our necks, our jaws clench, our stomach clenches. So breathing that intentionally, it opens up our shoulders, unclenches our jaw, our stomach relaxes, our heartbeat slows down. And breathing also helps you reduce that mind chatter that's going on in your head. Because I know it's there, just running around. Right? So as we bring in that healing oxygen and as we become more intentional about our breathing, we're able to calm down those thoughts. Bringing us into like a rational, more focused, more grounded, more centered state. And that's when you can start making a decision that's actually right for you instead of just reacting. Can't remember who said that, right? I think it was Meryl that said like, we're just reacting to things instead of responding. So breathing even just for 2 minutes, and you can just do that. You can take 3 deep breaths and then just breathe for 2 minutes. Like set your phone alarm for 2 minutes and just do that a couple of times a day. You can do it every time you go to the bathroom or every time you get yourself a new cup of coffee, like whatever works for you, just remember to breathe a few times a day. There's a couple of other breathing techniques that I really love. And one of them is just you breathe in for a count of 5, you hold for a count of 5, and you breathe out for a count of 5. And then you hold at the bottom for a count of 5. And you can set your alarm for 2 minutes and just go 5 in, hold 5, out 5, and hold 5. And just do that for 2 minutes. It's really amazing. It's actually a really great way as well if you can't sleep to do some of that kind of breathing. You can also breathe in for a count of 5 and just breathe out for a count of 6, whatever that count is for you. So having a longer exhale helps us calm down. And Crystal, I know you asked this, like, how can I get out of that feeling of overwhelm when I'm already in overwhelm? And breathing is the number one way to do that because we're interrupting our pattern. We're having that pattern interrupt when we start feeling ourselves, oh my gosh, I'm like in this spiral mode of negativity. I'm in this spiral mode of feeling really panicky or anxious or stressed, and intentionally breathing for a few minutes gets you out of that. And I don't have a slide for this, but it just brought up, Crystal, when you asked this question, it brought up, how else can we pattern interrupt? And I had this happen to me the other day. I was dealing with something and it was starting to get my nervous system like really dysregulated, and I could feel that panicky kind of I can't breathe feeling. And I tried to ignore it, right? Like we do, like don't just do your work, right? And I tried to really work on my computer for about an hour. And I know better, that doesn't work. Ignoring it doesn't work. So my pattern interrupt for me, what works for me is to go for a walk, like actually get away from my computer and get outside and walk. And even sometimes if all I can do is go to the mailbox and back, which isn't a very long walk, it's kind of across the street and back, even that pattern interrupt. So think about how you can kind of have a pattern interrupt. What would work for you? Sometimes it is just a quick walk around the block. Sometimes it's making yourself a cup of tea, like just physically getting away, doing something different. It could be doing a little dance, right? Like just getting your energy into get your body into a different space, leave your computer, leave the situation if you can, as that pattern interrupt. So think about how you can interrupt that pattern. So another really powerful way to stop overwhelm on a more proactive kind of daily practice basis is to take 5 minutes in your day, preferably in the morning. And I'm just suggesting 5 minutes to get yourself grounded and centered. And I'm going to share a story of a client of mine that did this. So Sarah came to me, her name is Sarah. She came to me, she was feeling super overwhelmed. Like she said, I have so many things on my plate. I'm not doing any of them well. And I just feel so overwhelmed. I don't even know where to start. And she really wanted to get back control of her time and her schedule. And she thought, I just need to set some goals. I need to have some accountability. And don't get me wrong, I'm a huge goal setter and I'm a huge one for setting habits and creating accountability. But sometimes what we need is just taking a bit of a step back and creating some space just for ourselves to listen to ourselves. So in our first session together, I asked Sarah to tune into her body and into her heart and ask herself what she actually needed in her day to get herself focused and grounded. And she decided what she needed was a few minutes in the morning to get herself organized, maybe do some journaling and some meditation, because she used to do that a while ago and a number of years ago before she had kids, and it seemed to work for her. And I said, okay, well, why don't you try that for a week? Just set your alarm for 5 minutes in the morning and just journal and meditate for 1 week and see what happens. So at our second session, the next week, she came to me and said, you know what, I remembered to do that only twice this week because again, creating new habits takes time and I just forgot. And I only did it twice, but I did do it twice this week. And what I did is I stretched and I journaled for 5 minutes. And even those 2 times that she did that, she was starting to feel and notice herself feeling way less judgmental about herself. She was feeling way more centered and grounded. So to me, this shows this power in just 5 minutes a day. So then we worked through, okay, well, how can you create doing this every day, right? Can you set yourself up on your calendar? Can you give yourself a bit of a visual sticky reminder on your computer or something? And so she did that. Now, she owns a business. She's a mom of 2 young boys, and she also has a spouse. So it's not like she's not busy, but she found the time to have just 5 minutes in her day. And so I'm inviting you to see if you can find 5 minutes in your day just to do what feels good for you. Maybe it's having a cup of coffee and just looking out the window for 5 minutes without any news on or your computer's not on or without your phone, but somewhere that you can find 5 minutes in your day. The other time that you may be able to find 5 minutes is, and this is a really important one, is to create this transition time between work and personal. Now, this is whether you work at home or in an office. And I know that this was a big one when we all were working from home. It's like there was no boundaries, there was no transition. And for a lot of us, that's still the case. But even if we work out of the office, I find that we just rush around like, oh, work's done. I got to rush home. I got to pick up the kids. I got to make dinner. I got to do this. And there's no time to actually close out work time and get ourselves set up for personal, family, whatever time, your self time, whatever your situation is. So I don't know about you, but how many times have you kind of rushed out of your office or rushed home and you like, oh my gosh, I got to make dinner, and you snap at your husband. There's a lot of husband snapping. I don't know why. Or getting just irritable, right? So here's a few ideas that work for me or that work for my clients is review your day. So I had one client who just at the end of her day, she just jotted down and she jots down what she accomplished that day, what went well that day. She just jots it down. And that's kind of her little end of day ritual. For me, I like to tidy up my desk. So file things away, do my to-do list for tomorrow. For some people, it's just figuring out, well, what is still on my mind? Like I had a tough conversation with someone today. Do I need to journal on that? Can I put some closure on it? But being intentional about it. Like, how can you intentionally create some space between work and personal time? Because I feel like we're always straddling those two things, and then we're never 100% at home. And I use the word ritual, and it's like, how can you create a bit of a ritual when you get home or when you leave your home office? Can you have a shower? Can you wash your hands or your face? Can you put on something more comfortable? I know for a lot of us, like, let's just take off the bra, let's put on something comfortable, right? But think about that as like a ritual. Like, what little ritual can you do? And I feel like we don't have enough rituals in our world. Like, we need more of that kind of transition time, that little ritual. Sometimes I literally just lay on the bed, look at the ceiling for like 2 minutes and just like let my thoughts run around and then kind of drift down and kind of dissipate a little bit. And then be really intentional about, okay. And sometimes I'll even say like, thanks for the day. It was a great day. See you tomorrow, office. Like, right? Like setting that boundary so that we're ready 100% to be at home or in our personal life or in our volunteer life or whatever it is that we do outside of work hours. Does that make sense? Yes, Brenda, thanks. So those are 3 simple ideas to get you started. Any takeaways or suggestions or other ideas for what you learned about today? You can type it in the chat or you can unmute yourself. Anyone? Sorry, I dropped my pen there. Remembering to breathe. Yes. Kathleen, good reminder to breathe. Remember to breathe. Yeah, it doesn't need to be a huge thing on your list. I mean, it's a huge thing, but it doesn't need to be a lot of time. It doesn't need to be a huge time thing. Yeah, making self-care, even for a few minutes, makes a huge difference. Yeah. Overwhelm and overthinking go hand in hand. Yeah, that's exactly it, Meryl, right? Like our mind starts overthinking, and that's what leads to that feeling of that panicky feeling of overwhelm and stress. Go outside, enjoy the sun. Yes, vitamin D, so important, especially now that we're in the summer months, but all the time. I used to do a gratitude journal, Kathleen. That's great, but got out of the habit. Yeah, gratitude thank you for bringing that up. That's a really awesome practice to have, as gratitude. And even when you're going through something really challenging, that might be a really great pattern to interrupt. And actually, I do this with a friend of mine when we're both feeling, overwhelmed or really busy. We'll just text each other, 3 things I'm grateful for right now. Right? So you can think about like 3 things that you're grateful for. Or at the end of the day, what are you grateful for? Daily gratitudes. Yeah, exactly. Brenda, I think the boundary separation is very important. This is really hard when I get inspiration in the night and then head back to my computer. Woo! Yeah. You know what's better is maybe having a little notebook by your desk or something so that you're not exposing yourself to the blue light. Because I think when you have ideas, and a lot of times we have those sparks of inspiration kind of when we're away from the work setting, right? When we're walking or something. So I think having a little journal, a little notebook is really good. But yeah, but the boundary, yeah, it's really important.
Oh, sorry. I was gonna say, I think it's really interesting, you know, how many women are on this call right now, and the idea of like not being alone. I think sometimes when you're in that intense overthinking or overwhelm, you really feel isolated. And it's kind of good to know that it's not just you. You know what I mean? So that almost takes a little bit of pressure off. I know when you said that out loud, I just felt like a little bit of a sigh, like, oh right, this is sadly normal. And you know, there's nothing wrong with me, because I think you get into this weird loop in your head where you're like, what's wrong with me? Why do I have to feel this way? Why am I carrying this with me? Like, what can I do? And even sometimes, I don't know about everybody else, but sometimes when you do that breathing, it's like you're doing it intentionally. You're taking that time, but that 5 minutes is over and like it doesn't feel like it did enough. Like it worked, but you're just like, oh, I need more, right? So anyway, just my thought.
Thank you. And no, you're not alone. You know, I think that's the biggest thing is like we feel isolated. We feel like we're the only ones going through something. And there's nothing wrong with you, right? This is the reality of our world right now. But I think the important thing is recognizing I don't want to be in this state because it's not healthy for me. And starting off small, right? So yes, I know that, you know, yes, we want more. Like I think sometimes we need more. But if I said to you, okay, you need to go meditate for an hour, or you need to go do this for half a day, or please take a day off away from your screens, like it's not always realistic. Like if you can do that, great, please do that. But start small and you can start building on it. Like if you start with 5 minutes in the morning and then all of a sudden you're realizing, oh, this is actually shifting my perspective on things and making me feel better, then your mind starts thinking, well, how can I make it 10 minutes? Right? Or how can I find a day in a month or a day a quarter to get away from it all? But starting off small is kind of the key. That's how you start building those habits. And just reminding yourself, it just takes one small little thing. And also reach out to people, right? Like all of our friends are going through this and we don't always talk about that. So the importance of connection, the importance of reaching out and just letting people know that they're not alone, I think is so critical, Ashley. So thank you for sharing that. Meryl says, my friends and I have started to brag every week as part of our ritual. Yeah, that's amazing. We brag about one thing we've done that makes us feel good. That's so good. I love that. Yeah, having like a little bragging accountability. And it's so interesting because we don't, especially as women, we think that bragging is such a bad word. Like we're not supposed to brag about ourselves. We're supposed to be humble and not talk about our accomplishments. And there's a really good book called I think it's called Brag Better. I'll find it for you. And I'll send it out to you guys, but it's a really good book. And she talks about just how can we promote ourselves more? How can we celebrate our accomplishments? Right. So I love that idea, Meryl. Thanks for sharing that. Anybody else? Cool. Well, I want to say that I love that you gave yourself today, this gift today of showing up for yourself. I think that's one of the ways that we can start to reduce this overwhelm in our lives and start feeling more connected is by giving ourselves that time to step away from it and to learn new techniques and learn new things and give yourself permission, even just for a little bit of time, just to, like I said, create some time for yourself, a place to pause and breathe and just focus on yourself. And I have some special gifts for you as well. So I'm really excited about that. My first gift is a free strategy call with me. So I'd love for you to book a call with me right now. And what we'll do in our call is we'll look at where you feel really stuck in your life. And we'll create a doable action step to start getting you moving forward through that, right? Because that's kind of what I was just saying. Sometimes it just takes that one conversation, that one step to get you feeling a bit unstuck and to get you some ideas about how you can even do that. So I'm going to just pop my link in the show note or in the show notes. I do a podcast. I always call it show notes. in the chat box. So yeah, book a call with me. We'll do a free strategy call. We'll talk about what you're struggling with, where you feel stuck, and we'll talk about how to get out of that. And then if you decide to work with me, and it's totally okay if you don't, I do have a special price for all of you on the call today. So so how my coaching works is I have a 6-week personalized coaching program. And it's 6 weeks because we just talked about how busy we all are. And also how much we need to learn to look after ourselves, and how important it is to get unstuck, and how important it is to find your purpose, and how important it is to get energized. So it's 6 weeks because we can do a lot in 6 weeks. And it's just a really doable, nice amount of time to work together. So I normally charge $12.49, and today it's $9.49. And that's Canadian to all my US friends. You guys get a bit of a deal. So take the step for you to feel more confident, more calm, more in control, and learn some strategies that are going to really work for you, that are personalized for you. And sometimes we all need guidance and support in that. So I'd love for you guys to book a call. Again, the link is in the notes there, the chat box. And one more gift. When you book your call with me, you're going to get this really awesome coaching bundle that I've put together. It's 6 powerful exercises that you can do on your own. Again, they walk you through how to reduce overwhelm, how to get clarity in what's important to you, your values, how to reclaim your energy, what your strengths are, and you can work through these. And I normally sell this for $200, but I really want you guys to have this because we've just talked about how important it is to get ourselves out of this state of fight, flight, or freeze. So it's really important to me that you have this gift from me. So I'd love for you guys to book a call with me. And lastly, I want to remind you that you deserve a life that you love. Jade says booked. Awesome, Jade. I look forward to it. Who else is booking? It's 12:45, so that was perfect timing. So we still have a few minutes. So we're going to remain online, and I'll leave the chat open. Any other aha moments or awesome, Meryl? That's great. And Victoria, that's terrific. Yay. I'm so proud of you for giving yourself this opportunity and this gift for you. So that's terrific. Any other questions, comments, takeaways, words of wisdom? We all have wisdom, and we all have something to give back. So if you have something you want to share, please do. Yes, Kathleen, self-care is not selfish. Olga, thank you very much. You did a reminder to stop and breathe. Yes, Olga, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for giving yourself the time. And yeah, breathing, right? We do it so automatically, but it's so important. Awesome, Vanessa. I look forward to it. That's so good. So excited. You're welcome, Kathleen. It's so good to see you. So glad you're here. You're welcome, Brenda. I'm so glad you're here. So good to see you. Have a wonderful weekend. For those of you in Calgary, it's supposed to be really hot, so get out and enjoy that. Rest, breathe. Maybe get a new journal. I find that always inspiring. I love getting new journals. Meryl, the reminder that I'm not alone in this. Yeah, you're not alone, ladies. You're not alone. And you have support, right? There's always support and resources. So please reach out. Even if you book the call because you just want to have a conversation, I'm happy to be of support for that.